1. We've got a real treat for you. A 1955 Dodge Custom Royal that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $9,500. This classic beauty is a true testament to the era of chrome, with its gleaming exterior that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Now, let's dive into the details. The seller mentions that this Dodge Custom Royal runs and drives great and could easily be your daily driver. That's right, you could be cruising around town in a piece of automotive history every single day. The car is currently driven weekly, so you know it's in good running condition. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt Super Red Ram 270 V8 engine that pumps out 185 horsepower. That's plenty of power to get you where you need to go in style. The car also features an automatic transmission, so you can sit back and enjoy the ride without worrying about shifting gears. The seller notes that the car has undergone an older restoration, but it's still in overall good condition. There are some minor surface rust spots, but no holes, which is a big plus for a car of this age. The interior is clean and non-smoker friendly, and even features a modern sound system, so you can jam out to your favorite tunes while you cruise. One thing that really stands out about this car is the chrome. It's everywhere. The seller mentions that this car has chrome on top of chrome on top of chrome. And they're not exaggerating. It's a true showstopper that's sure to get you noticed. The odometer shows 120,000 miles, which is to be expected for a car of this age. But with its rebuilt engine and well-maintained condition, this Dodge Custom Royal still has plenty of life left in it. Overall, if you're looking for a classic car that's both fun to drive and a real head-turner, this 1955 Dodge Custom Royal is definitely worth checking out. With its reasonable price tag and solid condition, it's a great opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. Just imagine the looks on people's faces when you roll up in this chrome-covered beauty. 2. We're taking a closer look at a 1980 Chevrolet Corvette that's up for sale on Craigslist. With an asking price of just $6,900, this classic sports car could be yours. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. This Corvette is powered by a 350 cubic inch engine, which is paired with an automatic transmission. That means you'll have plenty of power at your disposal without the hassle of shifting gears manually. The seller mentions that the car has new tires, which is always a plus when you're dealing with a vehicle of this age. One of the coolest features of this Corvette is the T-top roof. You can pop those panels off and enjoy the wind in your hair as you cruise down the road. And when you want a little more protection from the elements, just put them back on and you're good to go. Inside, you'll find a maroon interior that's sure to turn heads. The seller also mentions that the car has an AM/FM 8-track player, which is a really cool vintage feature. You can rock out to your favorite tunes and style. Now, it's important to note that the seller describes the car as being in fair condition. That means there may be some wear and tear, as you'd expect from a vehicle that's over 40 years old. But if you're handy with tools and don't mind putting in a little elbow grease, this Corvette could be a really fun project car. The odometer shows just 66,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. That could be a good sign that the car has been well maintained over the years. Overall, if you're looking for a classic sports car with plenty of potential, this 1980 Chevrolet Corvette is definitely worth checking out. With its 350 engine, T-top roof, and vintage features, it's got a lot of character. And at just $6,900, it's a lot of car for the money. Just be prepared to put in some work to get it looking and running its best. But hey, that's part of the fun of owning a classic car, right? 3. We've got a real piece of automotive history for you. A 1964 Pontiac Bonneville that's up for sale on Craigslist. The seller is asking $12,500 for this classic ride. And while it may not be in perfect condition, it's still got a lot of potential. First off, let's talk about the history of this car. According to the seller, it was sold new right here in Portland, and they even have the original window sticker to prove it. That's a really cool piece of documentation to have, and it adds to the overall value and authenticity of the car. Now, let's get into the condition of this Bonneville. The seller is upfront about the fact that it needs some work. They mention that it could use a new paint job and that there's some bodywork that needs to be done. The headliner also needs to be replaced, and the car needs new tires. But hey, that's all part of the fun of owning a classic car, right? On the plus side, the seller has already done a fair amount of work to the car. They've installed new brakes, exhaust, and shocks, which are all important components to have in good working order. And while the odometer has rolled over, showing 128,000 miles, the seller notes that the car runs and drives well. Inside, the seller mentions that the interior is clean, which is always a plus. But they also note that the car looks better in pictures than it does in person. That's an important thing to keep in mind if you're considering making the trip to see this Bonneville in person. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's sure to provide plenty of get up and go. And with rear-wheel drive, this Bonneville is a true classic American sedan. Overall, this 1964 Pontiac Bonneville is a car that's going to require some work to get it into top shape. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort, you could end up with a really cool piece of automotive history. The fact that it was sold new in Portland and comes with the original window sticker is a really neat bonus. And while the asking price of $2,500 may seem a bit steep for a car in this condition, the seller does mention that they have a lot of extra parts that come with the car. We've got a real project car for you. A 1966 Chrysler Newport that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $7,000. Now before we dive in, let me be upfront with you. This car is going to need some work, but if you're up for a challenge and love the idea of bringing a classic car back to life, keep reading. First off, let's talk about what this car has going for it. Under the hood, you'll find a 383 cubic inch V8 engine that the seller says is strong. That's a lot of power. And with some tuning and tweaking, this engine could really make this Newport come alive. The seller also mentions that the car has a freshly rebuilt transmission, which is a huge plus. However, it's important to note that the transmission shaft is not currently attached to the car. It's in the trunk. So, if you do decide to take on this project, you'll need to do some work to get that transmission connected and running smoothly. Now, let's talk about the condition of this Newport. The seller describes it as being in fair condition, which is a polite way of saying that it needs some TLC. The odometer reading is listed at 29,597 miles, but the seller notes that the odometer is broken, so it's hard to say exactly how many miles this car has actually traveled over its 55-plus-year lifespan. The exterior of the car is painted blue, but the seller doesn't provide any details about the quality of the paint job. Based on the overall condition of the car, it's safe to assume that the paint may be faded, chipped, or otherwise in need of some attention. Inside, the seller doesn't provide any information about the condition of the interior, but given the age of the car and the fact that it needs work in other areas, it's likely that the interior could use some sprucing up as well. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky. The seller specifically mentions that if you're interested in this car, you should bring a trailer. That suggests that the car may not be in drivable condition and that it will need to be towed away by the new owner. That's definitely something to keep in mind if you're considering taking on this project. Overall, this 1966 Chrysler Newport is a car that's going to require a significant amount of work to get it back on the road. But if you're a skilled mechanic or just love the idea of bringing a classic car back to life, it could be a really rewarding project. The 383 V8 engine and the newly rebuilt transmission are definitely selling points, but the fact that the car needs to be towed away and has an unknown number of miles on it are things to consider carefully. 5. We've got a real treat for you. A 1964 Chevrolet Corvair Monza convertible that's up for sale on Craigslist for $10,000. And let me tell you, this car looks absolutely stunning. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Corvair. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and based on the details they provide, I'm inclined to believe them. The car has just over 83,000 miles on the odometer, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. And according to the seller, everything on the car works, with the exception of the gas gauge. But hey, that's a relatively minor issue, and the seller even notes that all the parts are available to fix it. Now let's talk about what makes this Corvair so special. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that's paired with an automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the carburetors have been rebuilt and that the car has a new fuel pump, which suggests that it's been well maintained over the years. And with new tires, this Corvair is ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. The exterior of the car is painted a gorgeous burgundy color, which really makes it stand out from the crowd. And the black interior is the perfect complement to that stunning exterior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, but based on the overall condition of the car, I'm guessing it's in great shape as well. Of course, the real selling point of this Corvair is the fact that it's a convertible. There's just something about cruising down the road with the top down that feels so freeing and exhilarating. And with this car, you'll be able to do just that in style. Now, I do want to mention one thing that the seller notes in their ad. They mention that they have a very bad back and can no longer work on cars. While that's certainly unfortunate for the seller, it does suggest that they've taken good care of this Corvair over the years. After all, if you're passionate about cars and have been working on them for a long time, you're going to make sure that your own vehicle is in top shape. Overall, this 1964 Chevrolet Corvair Monza convertible seems like an absolute gem. It's in excellent condition, has been well maintained, and has all the features you could want in a classic car. The fact that it's a convertible is just the icing on the cake. If you're in the market for a vintage ride that's sure to turn heads and put a smile on your face every time you get behind the wheel, this Corvair is definitely worth checking out. And at $10,000, it seems like a pretty fair price for a car of this caliber. Just be prepared to fend off all the admiring looks and compliments you'll get every time you take it out for a spin. 6. We've got a real blast from the past for you. A 1974 Oldsmobile Delta 88 that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $7,000. This classic coupe has a lot going for it, and if you're in the market for a vintage ride that's sure to turn heads, keep reading. First off, let's talk about the history of this Delta 88. According to the seller, it's a nice 2-owner car with just 120,000 miles on the odometer. That's relatively low mileage for a car that's almost 50 years old, and it suggests that this Oldsmobile has been well cared for over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a 350/400 engine that the seller says runs great. That's a lot of power for a car of this size, and it should make for a really fun driving experience. The seller also mentions that this Delta 88 has air conditioning, which is a huge plus for those hot summer days. Now let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller rates the paint as a 6 out of 10, which suggests that it's in driver quality condition. That means it may have some imperfections or signs of wear and tear, but overall it still looks pretty good. The interior, on the other hand, is rated a 9 out of 10 by the seller. They describe it as being in great shape, which is always a big selling point for classic cars. One thing that really stands out about this Delta 88 is the condition of the frame rails, floors, and trunk pan. The seller specifically mentions that these areas are nice, which is a really good sign. These are areas that can be prone to rust and corrosion on older cars. So the fact that they're in good shape on this Oldsmobile is definitely a plus. Of course, as with any classic car, there may be some issues that need to be addressed. The seller doesn't mention anything specific, but it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a purchase. That way, you'll know exactly what you're getting into and can plan accordingly. Overall, this 1974 Oldsmobile Delta 88 seems like a really solid car. It's got a strong engine, a well-maintained interior, and a clean frame. The paint may not be perfect, but it's still in driver quality condition and should look great cruising down the road. And at just $7,000, it seems like a pretty fair price for a classic car of this caliber. 7. We've got a real gem for you. A 1984 Oldsmobile Toronado that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $6,500. And let me tell you, this car is in excellent condition and has a lot of great features that make it stand out from the crowd. First off, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Toronado is powered by a 3-hose 7 motor, which is a strong and reliable engine. The seller mentions that the car runs great, which is always a good sign. And with 106,000 miles on the odometer, this car still has plenty of life left in it. One of the things that really stands out about this Toronado is the condition of the body. The seller specifically mentions that the car has no rust, which is a huge plus for a vehicle of this age. The gray paint job looks clean and sharp, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Inside, the seller doesn't provide a lot of details about the condition of the interior. But given the overall excellent condition of the car, it's safe to assume that the interior is in good shape as well. Now, let's talk about some of the recent upgrades and maintenance that's been done on this Toronado. The seller mentions that the car has new tires, which is always a good thing. They've also replaced the water pump, thermostat, radiator, and fuel pump, which suggests that they've been taking good care of the car mechanically. The carburetor has also been rebuilt, which should help the car run smoothly and efficiently. One thing that really stands out to me is the fact that the seller has invested a lot of money into this Toronado. They specifically mentioned that the price of $6,500 is firm, which suggests that they've put a lot of time and effort into getting this car into top shape. And based on the list of recent upgrades and maintenance, it's clear that they've been taking very good care of this vehicle. Overall, this 1984 Oldsmobile Toronado seems like an excellent car for the price. It's in great condition both inside and out, has a strong and reliable engine, and has had a lot of recent upgrades and maintenance done. If you're in the market for a classic car that's sure to turn heads and provide a great driving experience, this Toronado is definitely worth checking out. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a final decision. But, based on the information provided in the ad, this Toronado seems like a really solid choice. If you're interested in learning more, or want to schedule a time to see the car in person, don't hesitate to reach out to the seller. And if you do end up bringing this beauty home, be sure to let us know. We'd love to see some photos of you cruising around town in your new ride. 8. We've got an absolute gem for you, a 1969 Ford Galaxy 500 that's up for sale on Craigslist for $11,000. And let me tell you, this car is a true time capsule that's been meticulously cared for over the years. First off, let's talk about the history of this Galaxy. According to the seller, they bought the car from the original family, making them only the second owner. That's a really good sign, as it suggests that the car has been well maintained and cherished throughout its life. One of the things that really stands out about this Galaxy is the condition of the interior. The seller specifically mentions that there are no cracks in the seats or dash, which is really impressive for a car that's over 50 years old. And the fact that everything works is a testament to how well this car has been cared for. Under the hood, you'll find a 351 Windsor engine that's paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the car has front disc brakes, sway bars, and a modern ignition system, which are all great upgrades that make this Galaxy even more enjoyable to drive. And with a well-tuned 2-barrel Holley carburetor, this car should have plenty of power and performance. The seller also notes that the car has true dual exhaust with MagnaFlow mufflers, which should give it a really nice sound. And with some new parts and regular maintenance, this Galaxy is ready to be driven and enjoyed. Now, let's talk about the overall condition of this car. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and based on the details they provide, I'm inclined to believe them. The fact that the car has always been garaged is a huge plus, as it means that it hasn't been exposed to the elements over the years. And with only 40,000 miles on the odometer, this Galaxy still has plenty of life left in it. The seller also mentions that the car comes with a new car cover, which is a really nice bonus. It shows that they've been taking good care of the car and want to make sure that it stays in top shape for the next owner. Overall, this 1969 Ford Galaxy 500 seems like an absolute dream car. It's in excellent condition, has been well maintained throughout its life, and has some great upgrades that make it even more enjoyable to drive. Whether you're looking for a classic cruiser or a daily driver, this Galaxy is definitely worth checking out. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a final decision. But based on the information provided in the ad, this Galaxy seems like a really solid choice. And at $11,000, it seems like a fair price for a car of this caliber. 9. We've got an absolutely stunning 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado that's up for sale on Craigslist for $12,000. And let me tell you, this car is a real head-turner that's sure to impress anyone who sees it. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Toronado. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and based on the details they provide, I have to agree. The car has a new paint job that looks absolutely flawless, and it's clear that a lot of time and effort has gone into making this car look its best. In addition to the new paint, the seller also mentions that the car has new tires, new seats, and new emblems. These are all great upgrades that not only make the car look better, but also improve its overall performance and comfort. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that the seller says runs great, and with a clean title and an automatic transmission, this Toronado is ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. One of the things that really stands out about this Toronado is the fact that it comes with several extra parts. The seller mentions that they have an extra instrument cluster, rear bumper, steering column, and boxes of other parts from a parts car. This is a huge bonus for anyone who wants to keep this car in top shape for years to come, as having extra parts on hand can make repairs and maintenance much easier. The seller also notes that the car is 98% complete and just needs a few more things to be 100% finished. While they don't specify exactly what those things are, it's clear that this Toronado is very close to being a perfect example of a classic car. Now, I do want to mention one thing that the seller makes very clear in their ad. They're not interested in lowball offers or people who just want to know the lowest price they'll take. The seller is firm on their price of $12,000, and they're only interested in serious buyers who understand the value of this rare and hard-to-find car. And speaking of rarity, the seller makes a great point about how hard it is to find a 1966 Toronado in this condition. These cars are becoming increasingly rare, and finding one that's been so well maintained and cared for is a real treat. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic car that's sure to turn heads and impress everyone who sees it, this 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado is definitely worth checking out. With its excellent condition, powerful engine, and extra parts, it's a car that's sure to provide years of enjoyment and pride of ownership. Just be prepared to pay the asking price of $12,000. The seller is firm on that, and based on the quality of this car, it seems like a fair price to me. 10. We've got a real classic for you, a 1962 AMC Rambler that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $4,000. This car has been well loved and cared for over the years, and it shows in both its mechanical condition and its overall appearance. First off, let's talk about what makes this Rambler so special. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that the seller says has been running well for the past 4 years. In fact, they even mention that the top end was rebuilt about 2 years ago, which is a great sign of regular maintenance and care. The seller also notes that they swapped out the mechanical fuel pump for an electric one, which is a nice upgrade that can improve reliability and performance. One of the things that really stands out about this Rambler is how easy it is to work on. The seller specifically mentions that it's been a wonderful car to tinker with, which is always a big plus for classic car enthusiasts who like to get their hands dirty. And with a manual transmission and rear-wheel drive, this Rambler is sure to provide a fun and engaging driving experience. Now, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller describes it as being in fair condition, which is a pretty honest assessment. The black paint job looks like it's seen some wear and tear over the years, but that's to be expected for a car that's almost 60 years old. The interior, on the other hand, is described as being good and clean, which is always a nice bonus. The odometer shows just 52,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. Of course, it's always a good idea to take odometer readings with a grain of salt on classic cars, as they can be easily manipulated or may have rolled over at some point. But even if the actual mileage is higher, the fact that this Rambler has been so well maintained is a great sign. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic car that's easy to work on, fun to drive, and has a lot of character, this 1962 AMC Rambler is definitely worth checking out. It may not be in perfect condition, but it's clear that it's been well loved and cared for over the years. And at just $4,000, it's a pretty affordable way to get into the classic car hobby. 11. We've got a real gem for you. A 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $500. And let me tell you, if you're in the market for a classic G-body that's ready for some TLC, this car is definitely worth checking out. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Cutlass. The seller describes it as being in good condition, which is a fair assessment. They're upfront about the fact that this car shows its age and isn't a show car, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it means that you've got a solid foundation to work with if you're looking for a project car. Under the hood, you'll find a V6 engine that the seller says runs well. That's always a good sign, especially for a car that's over 40 years old. And with rear-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, this Cutlass should be a fun and easy car to drive. One of the things that really stands out about this car is the fact that it has a clean title. The seller specifically mentions that you won't find another G-body Cutlass with a clean title, and that runs well for this price, which is a fair point. A clean title is always a big plus when you're buying a used car, as it means that there's no hidden damage or issues that could come back to haunt you down the line. Now let's talk about the appearance of this Cutlass. The yellow paint job is certainly eye-catching, and it's clear that this car has a lot of character. The seller mentions that the car comes with wire wheels, which is a nice touch. However, they also note that they're willing to negotiate on the price if you don't want the wire wheels, which is a nice bit of flexibility. The odometer shows 137,543 miles, which is definitely on the higher side for a car of this age. However, if the engine runs as well as the seller says it does, then those miles shouldn't be too much of a concern. And if you're handy with tools and enjoy working on cars, then a higher mileage car like this can be a great way to get into the hobby without breaking the bank. Overall, if you're looking for a classic G-body Cutlass that's ready for some love and attention, this 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass is definitely worth considering. It may not be perfect, but it's got a clean title, a running engine, and a lot of potential. And at just $5,500, it's a pretty affordable way to get into the classic car game. 12. We've got an absolute gem for you. A 1966 Pontiac Tempest that's up for sale on Craigslist for $12,500. And let me tell you, This classic car is in absolutely stunning condition, both inside and out. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Tempest. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and based on the details they provide, I have to agree. The fact that the car is clean both inside and out is a testament to how well it's been cared for over the years. It's clear that this Tempest has been loved and cherished by its previous owners. Under the hood, you'll find a 326 engine that's paired with an automatic transmission. That means you'll have plenty of power at your disposal, but you won't have to worry about shifting gears manually. And with factory features like air conditioning, power steering, and power brakes, this Tempest is a real pleasure to drive. One of the things that really stands out about this car is the low mileage. The odometer shows just 27,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a car that's over 50 years old. Of course, it's always a good idea to verify the accuracy of the odometer reading, but if it's accurate, then this Tempest has been very lightly used over the years. The seller also mentions that the car runs and rides great, which is always a good sign. It suggests that the car has been well maintained mechanically and that it's ready to hit the road and provide its new owner with plenty of enjoyment. Now, let's talk about the price. At $12,500, this Tempest is definitely on the higher end of the price range for a classic car. However, when you consider the excellent condition, low mileage, and factory features, it starts to look like a pretty good deal. It's clear that the seller knows what they have and is pricing it accordingly. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a final decision. But based on the information provided in the ad, this Tempest seems like a really solid choice for anyone who's looking for a classic car that's in excellent condition and ready to be enjoyed. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic car that's in excellent condition, has low mileage, and comes with plenty of factory features, this 1966 Pontiac Tempest is definitely worth checking out. It may be a bit on the pricey side, but it's clear that you're getting a lot of car for your money. And who knows, it may just be the perfect addition to your classic car collection. 13. We've got a real treat for you. A 1984 Cadillac Eldorado that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $6,000. This classic luxury coupe is a real head-turner with its stunning red paint job and sleek lines. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Eldorado. The seller describes it as being in good condition, which is pretty impressive for a car that's nearly 40 years old. Of course, as with any vehicle of this age, there are some signs of wear and tear. The seller mentions that there are a few leaks and some normal wear, but nothing that seems too concerning. One of the things that really stands out about this Eldorado is the fact that it comes with a clean Carfax and service records. That's a huge plus for anyone who's considering buying a classic car, as it suggests that the vehicle has been well maintained over the years. It's always nice to have some documentation of the car's history and any work that's been done on it. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that the seller says starts and runs well. That's great news for anyone who's looking for a classic car that's ready to hit the road and provide plenty of driving enjoyment. And with front-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, this Eldorado should be a smooth and easy car to drive. Now, let's talk about the mileage. The odometer shows 69,604 miles, but the seller notes that it has rolled over. That means the actual mileage is likely higher, but without more information, it's hard to say exactly how much higher. As with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done to assess the overall condition and mileage of the vehicle. The seller also mentions that these Eldorados are becoming very collectible, which is definitely true. As classic luxury cars from the 80s continue to gain popularity among collectors and enthusiasts, prices for well-maintained examples like this one are likely to rise. So if you're looking for a classic car that's not only fun to drive, but also has some investment potential, This Eldorado is definitely worth considering. Of course, as the seller notes, this car is being sold on a first-come, first-served basis with no trades accepted. That means if you're interested in buying this Eldorado, you'll need to be ready to move quickly and have the cash on hand to make the purchase. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic luxury car that's in good condition, has a clean Carfax and service records, and comes with a powerful 8-cylinder engine, this 1984 Cadillac Eldorado is definitely worth checking out. At just $6,000, it seems like a pretty good deal for a car of this caliber. Just be prepared to act fast if you want to make it yours. 14. We've got a real gem for you. A 1985 Pontiac Grand Prix that's undergone a stunning frame-off restoration. This G-body beauty is a true testament to the dedication and passion of its owner, and it shows in every detail. First off, let's talk about that engine. The 305 Ci V8 has been given some serious love with new cam lifters, springs, and an HEI ignition system. The aluminum water pump ensures that this powerhouse stays cool, even when you're pushing it to the limit. And with a rebuilt TH350 transmission, you know this Grand Prix is ready to go. But the real magic happens underneath. The rear end has been upgraded with a Posey and 3.23 gears, along with boxed control arms and disc brakes for ultimate performance. Every single bushing has been replaced with urethane for a smooth, responsive ride. And if you're worried about rust, don't be. The entire underside of the body has been coated with Raptor liner for ultimate protection. The frame itself has been boxed, C-notched for bigger tires, and reinforced for added strength. And with a quick ratio steering box and a 2 lowered stance, this Grand Prix handles like a dream. Now, the seller admits that there are still a few small things left to finish, but let's be real. With the amount of time and money that's gone into this restoration, those are just minor details. The important thing is that this car is a true work of art, inside and out. The black paint job is sleek and shiny, and the interior looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. And with only 90,000 miles on the odometer, this Grand Prix has plenty of life left in it. The asking price of $12,000 might seem steep at first glance, but when you consider the level of craftsmanship and attention to detail that's gone into this restoration, it's actually a steal. This is a car that's built to last, and it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. As always, I recommend checking it out in person before making any decisions. But if you're looking for a classic G-body that's been given the ultimate treatment, this 1985 Pontiac Grand Prix is definitely worth a closer look. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. 15. We've got an absolute gem for you. A 1976 Lincoln Continental Mark IV that's up for sale on Craigslist for $9,900. And let me tell you, this car is a true survivor that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Continental. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and based on the details they provide, I have to agree. The fact that this car still has its original paint and vinyl after nearly 50 years is absolutely incredible. It's clear that this Continental has been very well cared for over the years and has been preserved in remarkable condition. One of the things that really stands out about this car is the low mileage. With just 44,900 original miles on the odometer, this Continental has been very lightly used throughout its life. That's a testament to how well it's been maintained and stored over the years. It's rare to find a classic car of this age with such low mileage, and it really adds to the overall value and desirability of this particular example. The seller also mentions that this Continental was built specifically for the Arizona market and comes in a stunning desert sand color. That's a really unique and attractive color that you don't see very often on these cars, and it really sets this one apart from the crowd. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that should provide plenty of smooth, effortless performance. And with rear-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, this Continental should be an absolute pleasure to drive. Now, the seller does mention a few minor flaws with this car. The antenna doesn't go up and down, the air conditioning isn't working, and there's a crack in the dash. However, they also note that there's a custom-fit dash cover included, which should help to hide that crack. And while the non-functioning antenna and air conditioning are definitely things to keep in mind, they don't seem like deal breakers given the overall excellent condition of this car. The seller also mentions that they have most of the receipts and the original build sheet for this Continental, which is a really nice bonus. It's always great to have documentation of a classic car's history and any work that's been done on it over the years. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic luxury car that's in excellent condition, has low mileage, and comes with plenty of documentation, this 1976 Lincoln Continental Mark IV is definitely worth checking out. At $9,900, it's not the cheapest classic car out there, but given its condition and provenance, it seems like a pretty fair price. 16. We've got a real treat for you. A 1958 Ford Ranchero that's up for sale on Craigslist for $10,000. And let me tell you, this classic pickup is an absolute stunner that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Ranchero. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, which is pretty impressive for a vehicle that's over 60 years old. It's clear that this Ranchero has been very well cared for over the years and has been preserved in remarkable condition. Under the hood, you'll find a Ford Thunderbird 390 motor that the seller says runs and drives excellently. That's a powerful and reliable engine that should provide plenty of smooth, effortless performance. And with an automatic transmission, this Ranchero should be an absolute pleasure to drive. One of the things that really stands out about this Ranchero is the fact that it comes with the original one-owner pink slip. That's a really cool piece of documentation to have, and it adds to the overall provenance and desirability of this particular example. It's always nice to have a clear and documented history of a classic vehicle like this. Now, the seller doesn't provide a ton of details about the specific features or condition of this Ranchero beyond what I've already mentioned. The odometer shows 138,000 miles, which is certainly not low, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker for a vehicle of this age either. It would be nice to have some more information about the condition of the body, interior, and other key components, but the seller does describe it as being in excellent condition overall. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a final decision. But based on the information provided in the ad, this Ranchero seems like a really solid choice for anyone who appreciates the style, functionality, and craftsmanship of classic American pickups. At $10,000, this Ranchero is certainly not the cheapest classic car out there, but given its excellent condition, powerful engine, and one-owner history, it seems like a pretty fair price for a vehicle of this caliber. These classic Rancheros are becoming increasingly popular among collectors and enthusiasts, and finding a well-preserved example like this one is getting harder and harder. If you're interested in learning more about this Ranchero, or want to schedule a time to see it in person, don't hesitate to reach out to the seller. And if you do end up bringing this beauty home, be prepared for all the compliments and admiration you'll get from other classic car enthusiasts. This is a vehicle that's sure to turn heads and start conversations wherever you go. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic pickup that's in excellent condition, has a powerful engine, and comes with some cool documentation, this 1958 Ford Ranchero is definitely worth checking out. It may not be the most affordable classic car out there, but it's certainly one of the coolest and most desirable. And who knows? It may just be the perfect addition to your collection. 17. We've got a real gem for you. A 1965 American Motors Ambassador that's up for sale on Craigslist for $9,900. This classic sedan is a true survivor that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Ambassador. The seller describes it as being in good condition, which is pretty impressive for a car that's nearly 60 years old. While there are some issues that need to be addressed, like the upholstery and rear shocks, the seller notes that the car has good bones and looks nice overall. Under the hood, you'll find a V8 engine that the seller says runs great. That's a powerful and reliable engine that should provide plenty of smooth, effortless performance. And with rear-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, this Ambassador should be a real pleasure to drive. One of the things that really stands out about this car is the low mileage. The odometer shows just 34,021 miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. Of course, it's always a good idea to verify the accuracy of the odometer reading, but if it's accurate, then this Ambassador has been very lightly used over the years. The exterior of the car is painted a beautiful blue color that really makes it stand out. The seller doesn't provide any details about the quality of the paint job, but based on the photos, it looks to be in pretty good shape overall. Now let's talk about some of the issues that the seller mentions. The upholstery is one area that needs attention, and the rear shocks seem to be bad as well. These are definitely things that will need to be addressed by the new owner, but they don't seem like deal breakers given the overall condition and low mileage of the car. The seller also notes that the car has new tires, which is always a plus. And perhaps best of all, there's no smog check needed on this classic ride, which is a big selling point for anyone who lives in an area with strict emissions regulations. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a final decision. But based on the information provided in the ad, this Ambassador seems like a really solid choice for anyone who appreciates the style, craftsmanship, and history of classic American cars. At $9,900, this Ambassador is certainly not the cheapest classic car out there. But given its low mileage, V8 engine, and overall good condition, it seems like a pretty fair price for a vehicle of this caliber. These classic American Motors cars are becoming increasingly popular among collectors and enthusiasts, and finding a well-preserved example like this one is getting harder and harder. 18. We've got a real treat for you. A 1982 Chevy Camaro Z28 that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $8,500. This classic muscle car is a true survivor that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Camaro. The seller describes it as being in good condition, which is pretty impressive for a car that's over 40 years old. While there are a few areas that need attention, like the missing door panels and rear seats, the seller notes that the car is in great shape overall for its age. Under the hood, you'll find a 5.0L engine with dual fuel injection that the seller says runs well with no mechanical issues. That's a powerful and reliable engine that should provide plenty of thrills when you hit the gas. And with rear-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, this Camaro should be a real pleasure to drive. One of the things that really stands out about this car is the low mileage. The odometer shows just 50,383 original miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. That's a testament to how well this Camaro has been cared for over the years, and it's a big selling point for anyone who's looking for a classic muscle car that's been lightly used. The exterior of the car is painted a clean white color that looks great in the photos. The seller notes that there are a couple of repainted body parts, but most of the paint appears to be original. The interior is also in great shape, with the exception of the cracked dash, which the seller notes is a common issue on these Camaros, and the missing door panels and rear seats. However, the seller does have those parts available from another Camaro, but they're not the same color, so they haven't been installed. Another big plus for this Camaro is that the air conditioning blows cold, which is always a nice feature to have on a classic car. And the seller notes that the car doesn't overheat, which is another sign that it's been well maintained mechanically. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done before making a final decision. But based on the information provided in the ad, this Camaro seems like a really solid choice for anyone who's looking for a classic muscle car that's in good condition and has low mileage. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Camaro that's in good condition, has low mileage, and comes with plenty of power under the hood, this 1982 Chevy Camaro Z28 is definitely worth checking out. It may need a few small tweaks here and there, but it's got all the makings of a really special car. And who knows, it may just be the perfect addition to your collection. 19. We've got a real gem for you. A 1968 Oldsmobile Cutlass convertible that's up for sale on Craigslist for $1,300 to $850. This classic drop top is a true survivor that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. First off, let's talk about the overall condition of this Cutlass. The seller notes that the car is mostly original and not restored, which is pretty impressive for a vehicle that's over 50 years old. While it's not in perfect condition, it's clear that this Cutlass has been well cared for over the years and has a lot of potential for someone who's willing to put in a little work. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 engine paired with an automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the car has been in storage for several years and needs a tune-up before it can be driven on the road. While it will start and move, it's not currently in driving condition and will need some service and attention before it can be safely driven. One of the things that really stands out about this Cutlass is the fact that it's a convertible. There's just something about cruising around in a classic drop top that's hard to beat, and this Cutlass looks like it would be a blast to drive on a sunny day. The seller doesn't provide a ton of details about the specific features or condition of the car beyond what I've already mentioned. The odometer shows 84,000 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. However, given the fact that the car has been in storage for several years, it's hard to say how accurate that reading is. The seller does mention that the car comes with a clean title, which is always a good sign. However, they also note that they will not respond to emails or texts, and that interested buyers should call with any questions. That suggests that the seller may be a bit old school and prefers to do business over the phone rather than online. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic convertible that's mostly original and has a lot of potential, this 1968 Oldsmobile Cutlass is definitely worth checking out. It may need some work to get it back on the road, but it could be a really fun and rewarding project for the right person. And who knows, it may just be the perfect addition to your collection. 20. We've got a real treat for you. A 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass 442 that's been hidden away in a barn for over 3 decades. This beauty is a true collector's item, with less than 875 of them made in that year, and even fewer still around today. Now, I've got to be honest with you. This car isn't in showroom condition. It's been sitting in the original owner's garage since the early 90s, and it shows. There's a small scraped dent on the driver's side quarter panel, but the seller decided to leave it as is to maintain the car's originality. The interior, however, is in very nice shape, and the car starts, runs, and drives just fine. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 V8 engine with a 4-barrel carburetor and dual exhaust, paired with an automatic transmission. This 442 is a real powerhouse, and it's ready to hit the road again after its long slumber. One of the coolest features of this car is the T-tops, which have been removed since the early 90s. It's a rare find to come across a fully loaded 442 W30 with T-tops, power windows, and door locks from this era. In fact, experts estimate that there may be less than 100 of these beauties left in existence. The seller is asking $13,900 for this piece of automotive history, and it's a cash-only transaction. The car comes with its original title from 1980, and it's been a one-owner vehicle up until the current seller acquired it. Now, I want to be clear. This car isn't perfect. It was the gentleman's daily driver up until the 90s, and it's been sitting ever since. But that's what makes it so special. It's a true time capsule, a glimpse into the past. If you're looking for a numbers-matching, all-original 442 W30, this could be your chance to own a real rarity. As always, I recommend thoroughly checking out the car in person before making any decisions. But if you're ready to take on a classic that's been waiting for its next adventure, this 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass 442 might just be the one for you.